The pen felt heavier than it should have. Just ink and plastic, right? But when you're signing away 11 years of your life while sitting in a hospital waiting room, while your mother is dying 3 floors above you, that pen might as well weigh 1,000 pounds. He stood there, tapping his foot, checking his watch, like I was making him late for something more important, and I thought, this is the man I gave everything to. Welcome to my channel, where real-life stories reveal shocking truths. What happened next didn't just end my marriage. It ended the life Marcus thought he was building. And it started a chain of events that none of us, not me, not him, not the woman waiting in his car, could have ever predicted. My name is Denise. I was 41 years old when this story begins. Married, mother of 2 beautiful girls, Kayla, who was 15, and Amara, who had just turned 12. I thought I knew what my life was. I was wrong. It started with a phone call at 3:47 in the morning. You know those calls? The ones where your heart drops before you even answer. Because nothing good comes at 3:47 a.m. It was the hospital. My mother had suffered a massive stroke. They weren't sure she would make it through the night. I remember shaking Marcus awake. I remember the words tumbling out of my mouth, Mom, stroke, hospital. We have to go. And I remember his face. He didn't look worried. He looked inconvenienced. I'll stay with the girls, he said, rolling over. You go. At the time, I told myself he was just tired, groggy, not thinking clearly. I drove to that hospital alone at 4 in the morning, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, tears streaming down my face. And I sat with my mother, the woman who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me, watching machines breathe for her for 3 days. I barely left her side, and for 3 days, Marcus didn't come. Not once. He sent texts. Asterisk, how is she? Tell her I'm thinking of her. The girls send their love, asterisk, but he never came. On the 4th day, he finally showed up. But he wasn't there for my mother. He was there for me, and not in the way. You're hoping I'll never forget the sound of his shoes on that hospital floor? That confident stride. Like he was walking into a business meeting, not a place where people were fighting for their lives. He found me in the waiting room on the 3rd floor. I hadn't slept in 2 days. My hair was a mess. My eyes were swollen from crying. I was wearing the same clothes I'd thrown on 4 days earlier. And there he was, freshly showered. Pressed shirt. Looking at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. Denise, we need to talk. I remember laughing. Actually laughing. Because of course, he wanted to talk now. While my mother was in a coma. While I was falling apart, can this wait, Marcus? My mom might not make it through the week. He sat down next to me, and then he pulled out a manila envelope. I stared at it. What is that? Divorce papers. The world stopped. I mean that literally. The sounds of the hospital, the beeping, the footsteps, the distant conversations, everything went mute. Like someone had pressed pause on reality. You're joking. I've been thinking about this for a long time, he said. His voice was so calm, so rehearsed. I didn't want to do this now, but my attorney says it's better to start the process sooner rather than later. You know, for tax purposes. Tax purposes. My mother was dying, and he was worried about tax purposes. I don't understand, I whispered. Marcus, what is happening right now? And then he said the words that broke something inside me. Something that's never fully healed. I've met someone else, Denise. I'm in love with her. I want to start a new life. And I'd appreciate it if you could sign these today so we can move forward without any ... complications. I should have screamed. I should have thrown those papers in his face. I should have demanded answers. Asterisk, who is she? How long has this been going on? What about our daughters? Asterisk, but I was so broken already. So empty. So exhausted from watching my mother fade away that I didn't have anything left to fight with. I just sat there, staring at him like he was a stranger. Because in that moment, he was. You want me to sign divorce papers? Right now, in this hospital. While my mother is dying, I know the timing isn't ideal, not ideal. That came out louder than I intended. A nurse looked over. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Denise, please, don't make a scene. This is hard enough as it is. It's hard for him. I looked down at those papers. At the legal language that would dissolve our marriage. At the places where my signature would surrender everything. I thought I had, and something strange happened. I felt ... relief. Because suddenly, all those nights he worked late made sense. The secret phone calls made sense. The way he'd pull away when I tried to hold him made sense. I wasn't losing my husband. I was losing the illusion of my husband. The real Marcus had been gone for years. Maybe he was never really there at all. I took the pen from his hand, I signed every page. And when I handed those papers back to him, I said something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. I said, "You have no idea what you just did." He smirked. Actually smirked, like I was being dramatic. Like I was just the bitter, soon-to-be ex-wife making empty threats. He tucked those papers under his arm and walked away. He had no idea that 20 minutes later, everything would change. Here's what Marcus didn't know. Here's what I didn't even know. My mother had been keeping a secret. A secret she'd held on to for over 30 years. Waiting for the right moment to reveal it, 20 minutes after Marcus walked away with those signed divorce papers. A lawyer arrived at the hospital. A man I'd never met. He asked to speak with me privately. My mother, it turned out, had recently updated her will. Just 2 weeks before her stroke. Like she somehow knew. And in that will, she left everything to me. Not just her house. Not just her savings, everything, you see. My mother had never told me about my father's family. She'd raised me alone, and whenever I asked about him, she'd changed the subject. I assumed he was just some man who abandoned us. I was wrong. My father came from old money. Oil money. The kind of generational wealth that most people only read about. He died when I was a baby, and his family had wanted nothing to do with my mother, an unmarried black woman who they saw as beneath them. But my father, he had loved her, really loved her. And before he died, he had set up a trust that his family couldn't touch, a trust that would go to his child, to me. When my mother passed, the lawyer handed me a document. I read the number, I read it again, .40-7. $1 million. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the paper. There must be some mistake. I said, "No mistake, Ms. Denise. Your father wanted you provided for. Your mother protected this secret your entire life, waiting until you would need it most. Until you were ... free." Free. She knew about Marcus. She must have known. Maybe she saw what I couldn't see. Maybe that's why she updated her will when she did. My mother died 3 days later, peacefully, holding my hand, and when I walked out of that hospital, I wasn't the broken woman who had walked in. I was someone new. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell anyone. I let the divorce proceed exactly as he wanted. I took the minimal settlement his lawyer offered, the house, some savings, child support. I didn't fight for anything. Marcus thought he'd won. He moved in with her, a 20-year-old fitness instructor named Taylor, who he'd been seeing for 2 years. 2 years, while I was cooking his dinners and raising his children and trying to save a marriage that was already dead. He posted photos on social media, vacations, fancy restaurants. The two of them looking so happy, so free from the burden of his old life. And I stayed quiet. I moved into a modest apartment with my girls. I drove this same car. I wore the same clothes. I let everyone, including Marcus, believe that I was struggling, but behind the scenes, I was building an empire. I used my inheritance wisely. I invested in real estate. I started a foundation in my mother's name. I paid off every debt. I set up college funds for my daughters that would cover anything they could ever dream of. And waited because I knew Marcus. I knew his pride. I knew his greed. And I knew it was only a matter of time before his new life started to crumble. It took 18 months. That's how long it took for Marcus to realize that Taylor wasn't the dream he thought she was. She was expensive. She wanted designer everything. She wanted vacations every month. She wanted a lifestyle that Marcus's salary couldn't support, especially now that he was paying child support. So he started borrowing, maxing out credit cards, taking out loans, digging himself into a hole that got deeper every day. And then the company he worked for went through layoffs. Guess whose job wasn't essential enough to keep? Marcus was broke within a year. But here's the thing about people like Marcus. They don't take responsibility. They don't look in the mirror and see the problem. They look around for someone else to blame. And he looked at me. He came to my apartment. One night, unannounced, looking nothing like the polished man who'd handed me those divorce papers. He was thinner, tired, desperate. "Denise, I need to talk to you." "About what?" "I made a mistake. Taylor and I, it's over." She left me, took everything she could, and walked out. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I've been thinking about us, about our family. The girls need their father around. And you were always so good to me. I was a fool. He reached for my hand. "I want to come home, Denise. I want to fix this. We can start over." I let his words hang in the air, and then I started to laugh. "You want to come home?" "I know I hurt you. But people make mistakes. I still love you, Denise. I always have." I pulled my hand away. "Let me tell you a story, Marcus. About a woman whose husband served her divorce papers while her mother was dying. About a man who walked away from his family because he found someone younger. Someone more exciting." "Denise, I'm not finished." He went quiet. "That woman signed those papers. She let him go. And then she found out something incredible. Something that changed everything." I walked over to my window. The view from my penthouse overlooked the entire city. Yes, penthouse. I'd moved 6 months earlier. I just hadn't told him. My mother left me $47 million, Marcus. Money that was always meant for me. Money you knew nothing about. And while you were out there burning through your savings trying to impress your girlfriend, I was right here, building a life you can't even imagine. His face went white. "That's not possible." "The papers are with my attorney. You're welcome to verify it." "But you were struggling. The apartment. The old car. You thought what I wanted you to think. The same way you thought I didn't know about your affair. The same way you thought I didn't notice you pulling away. You were so busy seeing what you wanted to see, Marcus, that you missed what was right in front of you. Denise, please. This doesn't have to change anything. We can still asterisk what? Asterisk, I turned to face him. You chose to leave me on the worst day of my life. You chose another woman over your children. You chose your pride over your family. And now that it's all fallen apart, you want to come back? Because suddenly, I'm worth something again. That's exactly what it is. And here's what you need to understand, Marcus. I didn't need that money to rebuild my life. I was going to survive without it. I was going to raise our daughters and find my happiness whether I had $47 or $47 million. But you needed me. You always did. You just didn't know it until I was gone." He left that night with nothing. No reconciliation. No second chance. No access to the wealth he didn't even know existed when he walked away. The last I heard, Marcus is living in a studio apartment on the other side of town. He sees the girls every other weekend when he can afford the gas to pick them up. Taylor moved on to her next victim, and the life he thought he was building turned out to be nothing but smoke. And me. I wake up every morning in peace. I've traveled the world with my daughters. I've funded scholarships for single mothers trying to rebuild their lives. I've built something real, not just with money, but with purpose. My mother taught me that our worth isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. It's determined by who we become when we're standing alone, Marcus. Chose my darkest day to break me. But what he actually did was set me free. Asterisk, if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the person who walks away is doing you the biggest favor of your life. You just can't see it yet. Asterisk, asterisk, until next time. Asterisk.